It's been 100,000 years since we Homo sapiens have lived on this planet Earth. We have evolved from a group of hunter-gatherers mesmerized by the stars to a civilization of sentient beings who understood the secret of the stars. In this transition, we have seen the birth and death of innumerable cultures and languages. Along with it, we as a species have made numerous discoveries and inventions and established ourselves as the most dominant species on Earth. We have come so far from where we began. So what's next? Where's humanity headed to? To understand where we are actually headed to in all aspects, we need to start from the imminent future to way further in time. So without any further ado, let's begin the video. We human beings identify ourselves as rational beings and proclaim it to be one of the major reasons for the rise of humanity. But many a times we act irrationally, and sometimes the repetition of certain irrational decisions can cost us very dearly. One of the greatest irrational aspects of human nature is greed. Greed is usually described as an irresistible craving to possess more of something than one actually needs. Greed has the power to send a chemical rush through our brains that forces us to put aside our common sense and self-control, and thus we are compelled to act irrationally. Since the beginning of human culture, greed has been identified as an undesirable trait, as it creates conflict between personal and social goals and intends to create an inequity of access or distribution of community wealth. Moreover, history has constantly shown us that human greed has been and will be our greatest foe. Before the 1970s, hundreds and thousands of tons of lead was put into petroleum. Even with scientific evidence that lead was extremely poisonous, in greed of accumulating wealth, the huge petroleum refineries and petrochemical industries continued using lead on a large scale and started to spread misinformation about the lead levels in the atmosphere due to vehicular emissions. This went on for a couple of decades until the geochemist Claire Patterson won his lawsuit against all these big industries and a legal act was passed, which publicly accepted Claire's scientific discovery that lead is extremely poisonous and the levels of lead in the northern hemisphere was 1,000 times more than the natural amount. Even today, human greed is at the core of modern-day environmental issues. It's become quite apparent in the 21st century that human needs and desires have been increasingly given more worth above everything else. It's equally undeniable that the needs of the earth and importance in preserving and protecting it have been slowly stripped away in favor of those treasured human desires. Human greed has manifested itself in numerous ways, many of which are causing irreparable damage to the environment. The environment has become a malleable plaything from which we derive anything and everything we want, with consideration for our needs and desires only. Accompanying this greed, we have a lack of concern for the effects and damage our actions may cause to our generous planet. Let's take an example. Have you ever bought a product you didn't need? Perhaps some sort of clothing which if not bought would not affect you severely. But you made your decision based on an emotional mindset rather than giving a rational thought to it. This would seem to many of us too small a decision to have a substantial impact, but when 1 billion of us do it, it's a thing to be concerned with. Let's stick with this example. Now clothing requires resources to make, and we get those resources from Earth. And when we act irrationally, we are actually exploiting our planet. This constant exploitation is leading to climate change. To be precise, climate change is not the problem, as climate change is a usual process in the geological history of the Earth. But the sudden accelerated rate of climate change due to human actions is the problem. By now, you must have heard about the melting of polar ice caps, rising sea levels, global warming, water crisis and changing rainfall patterns. These are the result of us taking our planet for granted, and we need to take immediate measures to check them. Based on what we do to check climate change, there are different futures to which mankind could be heading to. If we act fast and quick to check climate change, humanity will have hundreds and thousands of doors open to a brilliant future. If we couldn't check climate change fast enough, only certain regions of the earth would be habitable for human beings. We could also expect some really strange evolution of humanity over the years to adapt to the new environment. Humans could even integrate with machines for better endurance in the hostile climate. Moreover, if science is sufficiently advanced, we may also have the option to geoengineer the Earth to terraform it again. And lastly, if we don't do anything and continue our wrong ways, we could expect the sixth mass extinction in a few decades due to the Earth becoming inhabitable. At last, wars would be fought among the last of us for food and water. But we should not let pessimism seep into our minds, as like every problem that came our way, if we work together we could check climate change and save our planet as well. Mankind was born on the Earth, it was never meant to die here. This video was a part of a new series called Where Humanity is Headed To. In this series, we would explore the possible futures of mankind and how our present actions would result in a span of hundreds of years. Please feel free to comment below about any aspect of improvement in our videos. Thanks for watching.